Hey man, what's good? It's your boy Tyshawn Miller Films. We back at it with another reaction from the boy I'm Not a Robot. Today we're looking at post-credit scenes in horror movies that changed everything. So without further ado, hey man, let's dive right into it. Three, two, one, let's get it.
The final hit. In Curse of Chucky, the post-credits scene starts with a package being delivered to a normal house. Nothing stands out. The person receiving it doesn't suspect anything. He even jokes that it must be his lucky day. But this guy isn't just anyone. Andy Barclay, the same kid who was
Now the straight to DVD Chucky movies, they were they were okay. The only one I can say I didn't really I thought it was okay. Was what was it? Not Cult, because I like Cult. Um, was this the one? I'm trying to think if this was the one before Cult, where they were. It was about Fiona Dorff, her character, and it was basically about the family in the house. I think that's the one. But that one, it was okay. It was an okay movie. I like Cult of Chucky better, but yeah, I mean it was all right.
was terrorized by Chucky at the beginning of the franchise, now all grown up. He walks in, answers the phone, talks to his mom. But while he's distracted, the package starts moving on its own. And at that point, you already know who's inside. Chucky cuts through the plastic from the inside and slowly comes out holding a knife, ready to attack by surprise. But this time, it doesn't work. When he turns to strike, he's met with a shotgun pointed right at him. Andy isn't a victim anymore. He was ready for this, and it's extremely satisfying. Actor Alex Vincent returns to the role after decades, which drove fans crazy at the time. And for good reason. This moment basically reconnects the entire original
Yeah,
franchise
it was good to
and
see
sets up what
Andy
comes
again.
next.
And I like
The
they
false hope.
incorporated him into the
The
TV
ending
show
of
as
Dawn
well.
of the Dead feels happy, but the credits show that it's not quite like that. After all the chaos in the mall, a small group manages to escape by boat, leaving behind a city completely overrun. It
Dawn
even
of the
gives you a
Dead,
sense
one
of
of the
relief,
best
like, okay,
zombie
someone survived.
movies of
But
all
as the credits
time.
roll, the movie starts showing footage recorded by them, like a home video capturing everything. And the tone shifts fast. Food starts running out, water becomes a problem, and the boat starts showing signs that it won't last much longer. In a bizarre moment, they find another boat drifting and decide to check it out. Inside a cooler, there's the head of a zombie, still alive, trying to bite anything that comes close. Even so, they keep going until they finally find an island, and that feeling of hope comes back. But the moment they land, out of nowhere, a crowd of zombies comes running straight at them. No warning, no time to react. The camera drops to the ground, and all that's left are screams, gunshots, and the sound of the attack. And the movie ends like that.
Stay behind me.
And I do believe I read somewhere that the ending of this movie, none of them survive, which is crazy. I hate movies where all the main characters die. But yeah, I think I read somewhere where there's somebody said, like the director or producer or something like that said it's confirmed that they all don't, none of them survive getting off the island. So that's pretty crazy. But I mean, I would have liked to seen the Dawn of the Dead too, though. But you know, with there are certain films that you should just leave it alone. So I'm actually glad they didn't make a Dawn of the Dead 2 or, you know, any kind of sequel to it. Just, you know, like some movies, just like Superbad. I know that's not a horror movie, but I wouldn't want to see a Superbad 2. Like, just leave it the way it is. The ending was perfect. Just leave it like that.
What hits hardest here is that it completely destroys the happy ending that seemed to exist. Zack Snyder basically pulls the rug out from under the audience in the final moments. The final call. In I Know What You Did Last Summer, the scene during the credits makes it clear the nightmare is far from over. It all starts with a group of young people who end up causing an accident on a deserted road
Oh, this came out last year.
and decide to cover it up to avoid taking the blame. A year later, someone starts stalking them with a simple message. He knows what they did. From there, it turns into a hunt, with a killer always one step ahead and victims trying to survive as the past comes back to collect its debt. Even when it seems like everything has been resolved, the franchise never really lets that cycle die. And that's exactly what this post-credits scene reinforces. After the credits, Carla Wilson, who has already been through this nightmare before, appears at home, calm, watching a news report about the new murders in Southport. While commenting on how Julie never seems to stay safe for long, someone knocks on the door. door, and that's when everything connects. When Carla opens it, it's Julie James herself,
Julie
the final
James.
girl from the original movie, standing there with that look of someone who already knows the problem is back. Without wasting time, Julie hands her an envelope. Inside, there's an old photo of the two of them from their trip to the Bahamas, but the image is marked with a red X crossing their faces. And on the back, a direct message: it isn't not over. The candle goes out. In Insidious, the movie ends with a heavy twist, but there's a
Now, before we get into Insidious, I enjoyed this reboot of I Know What You Did Last Summer or whatever. I didn't hate spoilers. I hated the fact that they made Ray one of the killers, which completely made no sense within the story. But it is what it is. I mean, they took a swing and it missed, but I respect the director for taking a swing at that. But I would like to see a sequel to that. That's something that I would actually like to see a sequel to. Especially since they're bringing back Brandy. So I hope they get to do at least one more film. And because it's kind of confusing as to who would want Brandy's character dead along with Julie. So, but hopefully it gets another sequel and it'll be better. But if it doesn't, what a waste of a post-credit scene.
detail in the credits that gives one last creepy push. The story follows the Lambert family, especially Josh, who since childhood has had a connection to the Further, a dimension where spirits are trapped. When his son falls into an unexplained coma, things escalate quickly, and a medium
One of
named
James
Elise
Wan's
steps
best
in to help.
films.
But in the end, when everything seems resolved, comes the reveal. Something came back with Josh. Elise realizes it instantly. She takes a picture of him to confirm, but doesn't have time to react. Josh attacks her, and she dies right there. Later, when Renee finds the camera, the image reveals the truth. Instead of Josh, the photo shows the old entity that had been haunting him since childhood. In other words, he didn't come back alone. The movie
And I
ends
hate
with
that
her
they
about to get
killed
attacked.
her at the end.
And then comes the post-credit scene. It lasts just a few seconds. The old woman appears, standing still, with a lit candle in front of her. And then it's over. This scene is so short that a lot of people didn't even notice it the first time. The final redemption. In Constantine, throughout the story, we follow John Constantine, a cynical guy full of guilt,
Keanu
dealing with
Reeves'
demons and
best.
trying to secure his place in heaven after a complicated life.
They
By
are
his
coming
side
out
is
with a
Chaz,
part two.
his assistant, a kid who gets pulled
Who
into
knows
this world
when,
without
but
really understanding
it's
how
supposed to be
dangerous
coming
it
out.
is. And in the final confrontation, Chaz ends up dying, catching everyone off guard. After the credits,
kinda
the scene
felt like Chaz
completely
was
shifts
gonna
the tone.
die.
Constantine appears at the cemetery, standing in front of Chaz's grave. No action, no chaos, just a quiet moment. He leaves his lighter on the tombstone and says a simple line, acknowledging that the kid did what needed to be done. As he starts to walk away, something catches his attention. The sound of wings. Constantine looks back and sees the impossible. Chaz is there, but different. Now with white wings, calm, completely opposite from the chaos he lived through. Chaz looks at him, gives a small smile, and rises, disappearing into the sky. This scene wasn't in the original theatrical cut. It was added later to give the character a more emotional closure, something the movie itself doesn't fully
I'm glad
deliver.
they
And
did.
it works, because in the end, while Constantine spends the whole movie trying to earn redemption, the one who actually achieves it is Chaz, the hidden audio. In Cloverfield, the most important detail isn't in the image, it's in the sound after the credits. The story follows a group of friends.
Now, you want to talk about a good marketing for a movie? I absolutely loved the marketing for Cloverfield. I could not wait till this movie came out because I wanted to see what it was about, like what the monster looked like. I love movies like this, especially when the marketing is chef's kiss. And the marketing for Cloverfield was amazing. Hate that we haven't gotten a direct sequel to Cloverfield yet. We were supposed to a couple years ago, but I know they were saying we're supposed to get one soon, but I mean, who knows if we'll ever get it. But Cloverfield, yeah, definitely one of the best movies ever made. It's definitely in like it will go down with me as one of the greatest movies of all time. It was just a fun ride, and like I said, the marketing for it was amazing. Like you wanted to know like what the monster looked like, how long you were gonna see it. Like it was just amazing.
friends trying to survive while a giant creature destroys New York City. At the end, the military launches a massive bombing to try to contain the monster, making it seem like everything is over, both for the characters and the threat. But after the credits, a strange audio plays. First there's static, and within it...
And then another thing, if know anything about Cloverfield or whatever, that monster in that movie was just a baby. So you can just imagine how like what the adult looks like. You know what I'm saying? If that size of that monster in that movie was just a baby, like you could literally imagine what the mother looked like or what the parents look like. How tall the parents are is crazy.
Within it, you can hear a distorted voice saying something like, it seems like a small detail, but when the audio is played in reverse, the message changes completely. In other words, the monster survived, and the movie never explains this directly. It hides it for anyone curious enough to look for it. Now, combining that with the final scene before the credits, things get even more interesting. In it, we see Rob and Beth months before the attack in a peaceful moment at Coney Island. But in the background, almost unnoticeable, something falls from the sky straight into the ocean. And this is where the movie hides its biggest secret. Director Matt Reeves himself confirmed that object isn't a satellite or debris. It's the creature itself arriving on Earth from space. Rob and Beth were unknowingly filming the very beginning of everything. The infection continues. Slither is already pretty gross, but the post-credit scene is on a whole different level of disturbing. We follow a town being taken over by a bizarre alien parasite that transforms Grant, an ordinary man, into a grotesque creature that spreads living slugs everywhere. At the climax, he literally explodes. And that's it. Problem solved, right?
I haven't
Wrong.
seen
After the
Slither
credits,
in
the camera
years.
returns to the remains of his body. That mass spread across the ground. Everything looks dead until a stray cat shows up, and that's where the problem begins. The animal, unaware of anything, starts eating the organic matter left behind. It's that classic don't do it, but it's already too late. One of the slugs survived and it's still moving. The cat gets closer. The screen goes black and the sound of the attack makes it clear it's not over. Fun fact, post-credit scenes weren't nearly as common in 2006 as they are today, so James Gunn was kind of ahead of the curve. Before we show the next scene, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to help us out.
Yeah,
Let's keep
subscribe
going.
to the
Trapped
boy.
inside the box. In The Collector, Arkin, an ex-con, breaks into a rich family's house to steal a safe and pay off a debt. But everything goes wrong when he realizes the
And
place
these
has
two
already been
movies
taken
were
over by a
fire.
sadistic killer who turned the house into a deadly maze of traps. After surviving it all, Arkin finally manages to escape. He gets rescued, put into an ambulance. It feels like it's over, but it doesn't take long for everything to go wrong again. The Collector intercepts the ambulance, takes out everyone inside, and takes Arkin with him. And that's exactly where the post-credits scene picks up. The image shows the killer sitting calmly on top of a chest, like he's relaxing after a normal day of work. Meanwhile, he watches memories of previous victims, a macabre hobby, and then comes the most intense detail. From inside the chest, you can hear Arkin screaming, completely desperate, promising he'll kill him when he gets out. The Collector just kicks the chest to shut him up. This ending was clearly designed to lead directly into a sequel. In the collection, the story continues right from there, with Arkin trying to escape this nightmare. The final torch. In House on Haunted Hill, it feels like everything is over, but the post-credits scene shows that in reality, the
Really
worst
good
is just
movie.
beginning. The movie revolves around a group trapped
I haven't
inside an
seen
old
the
psychiatric
sequel,
hospital, a place
but
marked by
yeah,
sadistic
this one is a
experiments led by
classic.
Dr. Vannicut. Throughout the story, it becomes clear that the place isn't just haunted. It has a will of its own, almost like it's alive. In the end, Stephen and Evelyn Price die in the middle of that chaos. And for a moment, you might even think that was the end for them. But it's not. The post-credits scene completely shifts the tone. It appears like an old recording in black and white, with that grainy quality that looks like it came from another century. And what it shows is disturbing. The two of them are strapped to an operating table, being tortured by the spirits of the hospital's former patients. And there's no escape.
Oh,
The
yeah,
scene
that
ends
is
with an
right.
ironic the end, making it clear there's no sense of closure or peace. They didn't just die, they became part of an endless cycle of suffering. The final offer. The story of Sinners takes place in 1930s Mississippi and follows twin brothers Smoke and Stack,
best movie,
both played by
yeah.
Michael B. Jordan, who return to their hometown to open a blues club. What starts as a
Michael
historical
B.
drama quickly turns
Got
into
that
horror
Oscar.
when the place begins attracting vampires, turning the brothers' dream into a nightmare. Decades later, the post-credits scene shows where all of that led, inside a blues club, almost empty, late at night. Sammy, Stack's cousin, is now an old musician, played by singer Buddy Guy. He's respected, but clearly tired, drinking after a show. And then they show up. Stack Jack and Mary step out of the shadows exactly the same as before, young, untouched, as if time never passed. And that hits hard, because it makes it clear they survived and became vampires. They reveal they were never really gone. They've been watching Sammy's life from a distance, seeing his career grow, not as direct enemies, but as a constant presence, almost
Such an
inevitable. Then comes the
emotional
offer.
scene.
They give him the chance to never stop, to keep playing forever without aging. In other words, immortality.
I could make it so you could stick around. Keep touring, keep living. No pain.
But Sammy refuses, saying he's already lived enough. They accept it without insisting and leave, letting him enjoy whatever time he has left. The kid came back. In Planet Terror, one character has a pretty heavy fate until the end credits. During the movie, we meet Tony, a kind of eccentric kid who carries a gun and clearly isn't your typical child. In a chaotic moment, he
I haven't seen
accidentally
this
shoots
movie in a
himself, and
while
the scene
either.
suggests he died right there. But after the credits, there's a completely unexpected twist. The scene shows Tony alive sitting calmly on a beach in Mexico, which is exactly where the survivors end up. And the tone isn't tense at all, quite the opposite. He's just chilling, playing with his pets, a turtle, a scorpion, and even a tarantula, like nothing ever happened. What's interesting is that the movie doesn't even try to explain how he survived. It just shows it and moves on. That fits perfectly with Planet Terror, which embraces absurdity and doesn't care about being logical all the time. This scene was filmed by Robert Rodriguez specifically because of his son, who plays Tony. He didn't want his son to have a tragic ending, so he created this alternate version where the kid survives. The final breath.
Aw.
In The Gray, the ending cuts right when the most important fight begins, but the real answer is hidden. Throughout the movie, we
this
follow John
movie right
Otway,
here-
a hunter hired to protect workers in Alaska,
Amazing.
trying to survive after a plane crash in the
Liam
middle of
Neeson,
nowhere. But the cold isn't the
man.
worst problem. A pack of wolves starts
From
hunting the
Taken
survivors,
to
turning the journey
The
into
Gray,
a brutal fight
like,
for survival.
he's
At the
been
end,
a
Otway
beast.
comes face to face with the alpha wolf, prepares himself by improvising a weapon with broken bottles, and the movie cuts right there. Without showing who wins, then comes the post-credits scene. Almost no one notices it. The image shows the alpha wolf lying on the ground, but with one detail. You can see a very faint breathing, almost unnoticeable. That suggests it's still alive, or dying. The fight happened, that's certain, but the outcome doesn't matter. Otway spent the entire movie dealing with fear,
I would
guilt,
have loved
the
to
urge
see
give up. And
that
in the
fight
end, he
between
chooses
him
to
and
fight
the-
until the
him and
last
the
second.
wolf.
A lot of people left the theater thinking the movie just ended out of nowhere, exactly because they didn't see this scene. And when they found out later, their interpretation completely changed. In the end, this scene doesn't answer everything, but it makes one thing clear. No one really wins there. Just two survivors who went to the limit and paid the price for it. The appearance. In Split, the movie pulls a Marvel-style move and connects everything. We follow Kevin, a man with dissociative identity disorder who has multiple personalities living inside him. Some harmless, others extremely dangerous. Among them is the Beast, a violent
James
identity that
McAvoy
takes things to an
definitely
almost
should have won an
supernatural
Oscar for
level. In
this
the end, he
movie.
survives, escapes, and it's clear it's not over. But the real impact comes right after. The scene cuts to a diner where people are watching a news report about the crimes. They comment on the case, trying to understand who or what that guy really is. One woman even compares him to an old killer, but can't remember the name. And then someone answers.
What was it?
Mr. Glass.
The camera reveals David Dunn. Yes, the same character from Unbreakable. He's sitting there in silence, listening to everything, and simply says the name that was missing.
They called me Mr. Glass.
It's a quick moment, but it completely changes the scale of the story because it
What a
confirms
terrible
everything happens in the same
sequel.
universe. This connection
Glass.
was kept completely secret
Glass
until the movie's
sucked.
release. No one knew Split was part of that universe. What hits hardest here is that it's not just a cameo, it's a warning. While Kevin embraces what he has become, David is already there, ready to act. And just like that, the movie turns a simple ending into the beginning of something much bigger. Well, at least that was the idea, since the next movie didn't really land. On screen, there's a video where we show alternate endings in horror movies that you need to see.
Yeah, Glass sucked terribly. Like, that movie was just bad. But hey, man, shout out to I Am Not a Robot. Like I said, go subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Another great video. Yeah, I really like post-credit scenes in movies. I like having little add-ons to, you know what I'm saying? You know, some of them answer like some questions that happens throughout the movie that you think might not get answered. So yeah, I love it when movies add post-credit scenes onto them. But yeah, that was the reaction, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I had fun watching. I'll see you on my next reaction. And as always,
I'll be right back.